Hello all, and welcome to tonight's, vertical review, which I am dubbing the Kare Kare and bed review, because I bought a new bed, so this crowded background you see over here is going to become even more ridiculously crowded as I try to go and shove a twin bed in this small open area that you can kind of see over there. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need it for my back. I spent $2,000 on an orthopedic mattress, because my back is literally killing me. Right now, as we speak, all the way up into my head. And kare kare, because that's what's heating up in the microwave right now. It's a Filipino dish. It's a tripe and oxtail stew. It's stewed in sort of like a peanut base. So, ground peanut base. So I think of it as a savory kind of dish of offal. And I love offal. Offal being, organ meats and whatnot. But anyways, so what are we going to be vertically reviewing today? You can see here, coconut Hiwa and, Nitro coconut from Maui Brewing. And my kare kare is done in the microwave. So we're going to be pouring it into two different glasses. Unfortunately, I don't have identical glassware. I'm going to be pouring the, going to be pouring the nitro into the pint glass and stout and porter into the this. And there's, like I said, it's going to be it's basically the same beer. One is nitro, this one here, in my left hand, which you see as my right hand, or I guess. Oh wow, that's confusing to me. And the carbonated one, nitrogenated, carbonated. So, let's get to this, shall we? I'm going to pour out the carbonated one first. These are both 6.0 ABV, like I said. Basically the same beer, except for, instead of being carbonated, one is nitrogenated. So this is the carbonated one. As you can see, it easily forms a head. Maybe a little bit too easily. Should move the camera down a little bit here. Bit on the high side. But it's poured out. Roasty, carob notes, cacao nibs. I'm going to go ahead and just lower this a little bit. Just wonderful. Sweet, bittersweet chocolate. Let's go now with the porter. The nitrogenated one, which we are pouring into the pint glass. Why? So it better go, because it has smaller bubbles, I want to go and capture the nose a little bit better than something in a regular stout glass. You can kind of see nitrogenated head versus carbonated head. One is a lot more frothy and fizzy than the other, which is very smooth and small bubbles. Now, the problem with nitrogenated beers, I find they don't have as much of a bouquet as carbonated beers do. This one has a bit more of a chocolate note to it. Refined chocolate as opposed to cacao nibs. The dark malt grains are also a bit more apparent. And still, even though the head has quite receded on the regular carbonated coconut Hiwa, it still has a far stronger bouquet than the nitrogenated one does. Very different. This one, I would say, has a bit more of a sweet aspect to it. It's a bit sweeter smelling with the nitrogen than with the carbonation. again, but also more muted. Okay, let's go to the palate now, shall we? Obviously, mouthfeel, stronger bite. Much less bite, but still the feeling that there is substance there, a gaseous substance. Carbonated one definitely feels more dry on the palate, a bit less smooth and oily. Not that either of them are very oily, but you kind of get this feeling. You kind of get what my meaning here. One kind of cuts through to your tongue a little bit more, and that's, of course, carbonated. Just a moment, I realized I forgot to go and fill up my water. Not that cross-palate contamination is a very strong thing here. Like I said, it's basically the same stuff in the bottle. It's a different sort of presentation with the carbonation versus nitrogen. This is much more front-loaded, in that most of the taste is front-loaded, where this has a far more brash finish on the palate. It's also far more effervescent. Obviously, effervescent coming from the carbonation. Interestingly, even though I took them both out at the same time, this one is much warmer than this one. Though I think that has a lot to do with like the glass base and the shape of the glass, more than anything having to do with the different gaseous components involved here. This is a very difficult one for me to say which one I like more. It's just very different in the presentation. So this one, you got a lot of the flavor up front. Because there's much less bite, much more of the flavor shows up on your palate. Unfortunately, it doesn't go up into your nose as much because of the lack of effervescence. But you get to go and have that more silky, more smooth, more creamy mouthfeel to the beer. but it also leaves a palate very quickly, you know. And then there's just that sort of roasted finish, sort of light roast coffee, carob tea, and, you know, overall dark malts. This one, the bite is the dryness that comes about from the bite, the initial carbonation dryness that comes about from the bite, kind of obscures the front flavors, but then it explodes in the mid palate as the effervescent enters into your nose and as it sort of lingers there in the finish as well. Interestingly, you get more of the hop bitterness as well that shows up in the finish. Not too much dimensionality there. It's just there to go and add to the sort of dark malt base. The hops are extremely muted. You can tell that has been used to bitter the beer, but it doesn't really announce itself as much as it does in, say, the finish of the carbonated version. Both of these, by the way, are well made. They're interesting to drink, and in fact it is quite fascinating to kind of do this side-by-side comparison, because where else are you going to do this kind of comparison where you have essentially the same fermented beverage, one that's been forced carbonated and one that's been nitrogenated? So, in summation, since we're heading on into 15 minutes here, and I don't really want to go and belabor this, because it's kind of getting repetitive at this point. This one, if you like sweeter notes, if you like it to have more of a chocolatey dimension, less of a roasty aspect, more of a creamy aspect, more of a smooth aspect, go with the nitrogen. If you want something that pops up a little bit more bitter in both the malts and in the hopping, if you want something that has a bit more edge, so more of a bittersweetness, more of a carob note, cacao nib note, then go with the carbonated version. Both of these are on the sweet side for a porter. Obviously, they're not going all the way into stout territory. So I honestly don't say that they have much of a coffee profile to them. Maybe in the sense of a light roasted, a blonde roasted coffee, but certainly not in a dark roasted coffee when you think of, you know, roasted coffee notes within a beer tasting description. But I'm really enthused by this, as you can tell, if I'm a little bit out of it. It's because this is what happens when I drink on an empty stomach. Usually I have my meal before I go and you know, do these reviews, basically so the alcohol doesn't go to my head too quickly. I didn't for this one because I wanted my palate to be absolutely clear. I haven't eaten anything in about 6 hours, nor drank anything other than water. And I'm still, like, you know, constantly just, like, in my, I'm not sure what the, nasal pharynx thing is that's happening, that's going on there. But I'm still constantly trying to go and open it up a little bit more in the upper notes, like here behind my sinuses and in my nasal cavity, to kind of go and better taste it. Now, what's interesting here is as they warm up, and they're now pretty warm, they're still quite different. They're still very different. And I need to refresh my water. I'll be right back. And this is something I love with beer, is that this sort of complexity that can just come from changing one element within the beer. And so, in summation, because I'm kind of rambling on right now and losing my train of thought very easily, coconut Hiwa and the Nitro coconut here. Both great beers. The Nitro coconut is the limited edition. So let me go and bring that up there. Yeah, so that's the limited edition there. And it came out a couple months ago, so might have another month or so left, and it's probably at the brew pub, and I am just rambling on and losing my train of thought. I need to wrap this up quickly here. Get it if you try it. Definitely don't drink 2 beers on an empty stomach, otherwise you'll get like me. And you know, try both. This is part of their flagship lineup. It's a great beer. Can try both. Try them vertically with food. I might add, with food. And yeah, that's your vertical review for tonight. If you like porters, definitely undergo this experiment here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna get some commentary on this. This is why I have a meal before I go and do these things. But I really wanted to have it clear. I'm sorry. I apologize for this. I'm a lightweight, okay? I usually only drink like 2 to 3 beers and I'm done for a night. I'm sorry.